The stench of desperation clings to me like a second skin as I push open the rusted door of the abandoned warehouse. The hinges screech, a banshee's wail piercing the oppressive silence of this God-forsaken part of town. I clutch my last $100 bill in my sweaty palm, my lifeline, my final hope. The weight of unpaid tuition and mounting debts threatens to crush me, but I've heard whispers of a game that could change everything. A game where fortunes are made and lives are ruined in the blink of an eye. The interior is a labyrinth of shadows and decay. Flickering fluorescent lights cast in sickly glow over peeling walls adorned with graffiti that seems to writhe and twist in my peripheral vision. The air is thick with the acrid smell of stale cigarettes and something else, something metallic and vaguely organic that makes my stomach churn. I follow the sound of muffled voices, my footsteps echoing hollowly on the concrete floor. With each step, I feel like I'm descending deeper into the bowels of hell itself. The voices grow louder, punctuated by the occasional clink of poker chips and the soft rustle of cards being shuffled. I round a corner and freeze, my breath catching in my throat. Before me is a scene plucked straight from a nightmare. A makeshift poker table stands in the center of the room, surrounded by the most grotesque collection of individuals I've ever laid eyes on. To my left sits a man whose face is a roadmap of scar tissue, angry red welts covering half his visage. His remaining eye, unnaturally bright in the dim light, fixes on me with predatory intensity. Beside him, a woman with fingers so long and spindly, they seem to belong to some otherworldly creature rather than a human. Her nails, sharpened to points, drum an unsettling rhythm on the table's surface. But it's the figure directly across from me that sends ice water coursing through my veins. Clad in a plague doctor's mask, its beaked visage an emotionless void, the silent player's presence seems to suck the very air from the room. I can feel its gaze boring into me, even though I can't see its eyes. "Well, well," the scarred man drawls, his voice like gravel being crushed underfoot. "Fresh meat? Care to join us, little girl?" I swallow hard, my throat suddenly dry as sandpaper. Every instinct screams at me to run, to flee this den of monsters and never look back. But the crushing weight of my financial ruin anchors me in place. I take a shaky step forward. I'd like to play," I manage to croak out, my voice barely above a whisper. The woman with the unnaturally long fingers lets out a cackle that sounds more like nails on a chalkboard than human laughter. "Oh, this one's desperate," she hisses, her tongue flicking out to wet her lips in a gesture that's somehow both sensual and revolting. I can smell it on her. I force myself to approach the table, my legs trembling beneath me. As I pull out the empty chair, I catch a glimpse of my reflection in a cracked mirror hanging on the wall. For a moment, I barely recognize myself. My once vibrant eyes are now sunken and haunted, dark circles etched beneath them like bruises. My skin is sallow, stretched tight over my cheekbones. I look like a corpse already, I realize with a start. Maybe I belong here after all. The scarred man shuffles the deck with practiced ease, his gnarled fingers dancing over the cards. "Ante up," he growls, and I place my precious $100 bill in the center of the table with shaking hands. As the cards are dealt, I feel a shift in the air, a palpable tension that seems to crackle with dark energy. The game begins, and with it, my descent into madness. The first few hands are a blur. I play cautiously, terrified of losing my meager stake. But as the night wears on, something strange begins to happen. Cards that should be bad turn out to be winners. Improbable flops fall in my favor. My chip stack grows, slowly at first, then with increasing speed. With each pot I rake in, I feel a surge of exhilaration. The crushing weight of my debts begins to lift, replaced by a giddy sense of possibility. But there's something else too, a creeping unease that I can't quite place. It's during a particularly tense hand that I first notice the changes. As I reach out to collect my winnings, I catch sight of my nails. They seem longer somehow, and harder. The tips have taken on a faintly yellowish hue, like old ivory. I blink. Sure, I must be imagining things, but when I look again, the change is undeniable. The woman with the long fingers notices my distress and lets out another of her bone-chilling laughs. "First time's always a shock, dearie," she cackles. "But don't worry, you'll get used to it. We all did." I want to ask what she means, but my mouth won't form the words. Instead, I focus on the game, trying to ignore the growing sense of wrongness that permeates every fiber of my being. As the stakes climb higher, the changes accelerate. My teeth feel strange in my mouth, sharper somehow. I run my tongue over them and taste blood, realizing with horror that I've cut myself on my own incisors. The other players watch me with growing interest, their eyes gleaming with a mixture of hunger and anticipation. The pots grow larger, thousands turning into tens of thousands, then hundreds of thousands. The numbers become almost meaningless, abstract concepts that bear no relation to the real world I've left behind. All that matters is the game, the cards, the primal thrill of victory. It's only when we reach the $1 million mark that I begin to understand the true nature of what's happening. As I push my entire stack into the center of the table, going all in on a hand I'm certain is unbeatable, I catch sight of my reflection again. The face staring back at me is barely recognizable as human. My eyes have taken on a feral gleam, pupils dilated to black pits that seem to swallow all light. My teeth are now unmistakably fangs, protruding over my lower lip in a grotesque parody of a smile. My skin has taken on a grayish pallor, stretched tight over features that have become sharp and angular. "What's happening to me?" I whisper, my voice a rasping growl that sounds alien to my own ears. The plague doctor speaks for the first time, its voice muffled and distorted behind its mask. "You're winning," it says simply. "And with each victory, you shed a little more of your humanity. The chips aren't just money, you see. They're pieces of your soul." As if on cue, the room begins to warp and twist around us. The walls melt away, revealing a hellish landscape beyond. Rivers of molten lava cut through fields of jagged obsidian, and the sky above burns with an unholy red light. Screams of the damned echo in the distance, a cacophony of agony that threatens to drive me mad. "Welcome to our realm," the scarred man says, his face splitting into a grin that's far too wide to be natural. "Where the game never ends, and the stakes are always your very essence." I look down at my hands, now twisted into claws, then back at the massive pot in the center of the table. $5 million worth of chips glitter there, a fortune beyond my wildest dreams. But I understand now that it's not just money. It's my humanity, my very soul, balanced on the edge of a knife. The other players reveal their hands, one by one. The woman with the long fingers shows a full house, queens over tens. The scarred man lays down 4 of a kind, aces. The plague doctor's hand is even stronger, a straight flush, 9 high. With trembling hands, I turn over my cards. A royal flush, the unbeatable hand. For a moment, there's silence. Then the other players begin to laugh, a sound of pure, unadulterated evil that seems to shake the very foundations of this hellish realm. "Congratulations," the plague doctor says, its voice dripping with malice. "You've won the game. Now you have a choice to make." I look at the massive pile of chips, then back at my monstrous reflection. The choice is clear. Take my winnings and complete my transformation into one of these nightmare creatures, or forfeit everything and cling to the last shreds of my humanity. Time seems to stand still as I weigh my options. The lure of wealth and power is intoxicating, promising an escape from the crushing poverty that drove me here in the first place. But as I gaze into the infernal landscape that surrounds us, I realize the true cost of such a victory. With a scream of anguish that's equal parts human and bestial, I swipe my arm across the table, sending chips flying in every direction. The other players howl in rage, their forms twisting and warping into even more monstrous shapes. "I choose humanity," I roar, feeling my fangs recede and my claws shrink back into normal fingernails. The world lurches sickeningly, and I find myself back in the abandoned warehouse, sprawled on the filthy concrete floor. The other players are gone, leaving no trace of their existence save for the lingering stench of brimstone and decay. I struggle to my feet, my body racked with pain, as if I've been beaten within an inch of my life. My clothes are in tatters, and my skin is covered in a network of faint scars that I know will never fully fade. As I stumble out into the cold light of dawn, I realize that I've lost everything: my money, my dreams of escaping poverty, perhaps even my sanity. But I've retained something far more precious: my soul. I make my way back to my dingy apartment, each step an agony, knowing that the horrors I've witnessed will haunt me for the rest of my days. But as I collapse onto my threadbare mattress, I allow myself a small, grim smile. I may be broken, and forever changed by my brush with the infernal. But I'm still human, and in the end, that's a victory more valuable than all the riches in hell.